So Belfast was a new movie written and directed by Kenneth Branagh, and it stars Catriona Balfe, Judi Dench, Ciarán Hinds, Jamie Dornan, a newcomer named Jude Hill, and it's about this kid who's growing up in Belfast during civil war, basically, and how he and his family try so hard to stay together and to stay in Belfast, but realizing that they kind of have to leave at some point and kind of move on. So this was a movie that I didn't hear too much about before, like for a while, and then I saw the trailers and it's like, okay, I guess. And I heard that it was like getting a bunch of these awards, and I was it kind of got me more intrigued because it was like getting a lot of recognition across the board. And so I'm really glad that it actually did come to my area and I didn't have to go to a town that's like an hour away to see it. And I'm also really glad that I saw this movie. This movie took me by surprise. I'm actually really glad that I actually got to see Belfast. So, what's really good about this movie? Mainly the acting across the board. Most of the performances are really good. Ciarán Hinds as the grandfather, he's really good. He's compassionate. He's understanding. He tries to be a voice of reason to Jude Hill. I'll talk about him in a bit. Catriona Balfe and Jamie Dornan are also really good as the main kid's parents. And Jamie Dornan, like, I felt like, I made fun of him for years for being in something like 50 Shades of Grey. But he's really good as this father who's, like, trying to, balance his work and balance, like, his life with his family. And that's really good. Catriona Balfe is really good as a woman who's, like, trying to raise her family. And she's, like, trying to, like, keep herself sane during this whole thing. It was really good. A lot of it is really subtle. Like, they don't really dive deep into it, but what they do with it, it's also really good. Newcomer Jude Hill, who plays the young kid in the movie, I thought he was really good. He was likable enough. Colin Morgan, he's not really talked about, but I thought he was really, really creepy as the villain of this movie, kind of. He's kind of a villain, but he's not like a focus or anything, but he was really creepy for what he did. Also, the cinematography is really interesting as well, even though most of the movie is in black and white. What I found interesting is that they use color throughout this movie a lot. Like whenever they're watching something, like on the TV or on the stage or in a movie theater, that's in colors. Interesting, which I thought was very fascinating. It's like, okay, I kind of it's interesting. I don't know why you're doing it, but I was impressed by it. There's a lot of interesting things talked about throughout this entire movie, like parenting and sacrifices, and your belief system, and like when do you draw the line, like in this movie, like the people who are taking over are the people who the people who are fighting in this so-called civil war, who are protesting and all that. They're the ones who have the same beliefs as the main family, and so they're at a crossroads, like, we don't endorse this and we just gotta get out of here. Also, there's a lot of things about childhood and innocence. Is like at some points when you're a kid, you just lose your innocence. I thought that was very effective, and also the film manages to blend, like, it tries to be a historical movie, tries to be a family drama, and unlike something like, say, House of Gucci, which tried to be so many things and just fell apart so fast, Belfast, on the other hand, manages to blend all these nicely, and it all just feels very even. So it didn't bother me that I tried to blend things so well. Is there Are there a couple of cons in this movie? Unfortunately, one, the movie's a little bit too slow. The movie is only about 100 minutes, which isn't that bad per se, especially for most awards contenders. But there are definitely some moments where it's like, okay, you can kind of pick up the pace a little bit. Also, I felt Judi Dench was sadly the weakest part of this movie. It's not like her character is necessarily bad, but her character just didn't really leave an impact on me. Like, Ciarán Hinds left an impact. Jamie Dornan did. Catriona Balfe did. She did not. So, well, which is unfortunate. Obviously, she's a living legend, but I just wish she could have done a little bit better. And, you know, if anything, it's still a very well made movie, despite those couple things I didn't like. Overall, Belfast is a very well acted movie, a very well shot movie. It does have a lot of themes going for it, and it does have a lot on its mind, and it mostly works for the most part. And it kind of got me thinking about, like, all these things that happen, and also it manages to blend things very well, like a historical drama, family drama, and it all works. And even though it can be a bit too slow and maybe a couple of performances are not up to par, this is still worth watching. I will give Belfast, I'll go pretty high. I'll give it 3.5 out of 4 stars. See it. So, what did you think of Belfast? Also, do you have your own Oscar predictions right now? Because I think this movie's probably going to get a lot of recognition. I don't know about wins, maybe nominations, but we'll see. So, what did you think? Comment down below, subscribe to the channel. This is Pat. Stay safe.